So I'm just going to recap a little bit of main key points of some of the stuff that was shared. I can't cover everything. I can't even remember everything we talked about in this little group discussion around assertiveness and some of the main blocks, issues, and patterns that are running around that for different people in the room here. And then we'll do a very short process just to get in touch with some of the things we need to feel and release and let go of. So one of the key things around assertiveness that's often an issue in preventing us from being assertive is self-consciousness. Self-consciousness is really about this thing that we don't want other people to see, that we don't want to be revealed. It's something that we often try to hide, not only from other people, but often from ourselves as well. It often has to do with feelings of feeling less than, feeling unworthy, feeling stupid, feeling like a freak, like we don't fit in, or all these things that really make us feel so bad about ourselves, and things that we're so judged about ourselves that we really want to hide it. We want to forget that we feel this way about us, but we also want to hide it from other people so they can like us, because if they really saw how we really are, how stupid we really are, how worthless we really are, then they would not like us and they would not accept us. So a lot of that whole thing around self-consciousness has got to do with rejection, you know, trying to avoid rejection in some form or another. And that's something that drives a lot of people to hide, to avoid and deny, to seek approval, to put masks on, to play roles, to be the pleaser, all of these things that we do as well. So the fear of rejection is a huge issue that also really needs to be sorted out. And a lot of that comes down to healing past experiences of rejection and actually, you know, working with healing your heart and healing the parts of you that have been hurt by those rejections and that have taken it personally to mean that you are less than and that you are unworthy and that there's something wrong with you. So it's a bit of a self-feeding cycle. You know, when we experience rejection, we feel less than and we feel there's something wrong with us if we choose to make it mean that about us. But also the more we feel these things about us, oh, I'm stupid, I don't fit in, I'm worthless, the more we, want to avoid rejection, and then the more we keep acting out in ways that are going to actually cause us to reject ourselves and how we really feel, and cause us to act out of a place which is about judging who we think we really are and hiding it under lots of layers of false identity in order to fit in. Another fear that can also drive this assertive issue has to do with the fear of getting into trouble. And that's about not wanting to experience discomfort or pain or loss. Sometimes getting into trouble is about punishment, or is about something being taken away from you, or it can be about experiencing pain and discomfort in some way or another. So that's also really that whole thing about past experiences of having got into trouble and experienced pain or punishment or something, and really being driven then to live your life in a way that's about avoiding that. Some of the things around assertiveness as well sometimes can really get tied up in the survival instincts of the human vessel, the human creature. Sometimes we feel we have to be really assertive in a moment where we feel threatened, and we get triggered into this sense of feeling threatened, feeling like a cornered animal. And whether the threat is real or not is a whole other issue, because sometimes there is a real threat to our safety. Somebody's invading our personal space to hurt us or to abuse us in some way or another, and there can be that instinct that wants to bite back. But often enough, the threat that we perceive to be a threat to our survival, whether it's physically, emotionally, mentally, or spiritually, it's often just in our heads. It's something that's not really a threat. Maybe it is something that used to be a threat in the past, but it's no longer relevant to the here and now. So when we have some of these responses where we start to get really defensive and really that kind of animal wanting to bite back as there's things that are coming to attack it, we have to really just be honest about what it is that we're trying to protect and what it is that we consider to be a threat, and be somewhat rational about the whole thing, and realize that certain things that we feel like in our patterns that is a threat to our survival on some level or another really isn't. And so we need to kind of let go of the pattern and you know, allow the survival instincts to be used for what they're meant to be used for, which is really the, you know, threats to the actual survival of this thing. But once again, it's one of these instances where we use our fear and the negative ego to turn these survival instincts into something that they're not supposed to be, just like the negative ego is actually a distortion of the healthy natural ego, which is that part of our energy and psyche that's supposed to look after the safety of this thing and just instruct us when we need to go to the loo or eat or drink or very basic things like this. But we just, through wanting to avoid and deny things that we judge about ourselves, things that are too painful or uncomfortable to experience, then we kind of train the negative ego, that entity within us, to take over doing a lot of things that it's not supposed to do. You know, it's supposed to take over just the basic human functions and a, you know, a certain sense of common sense in terms of keeping these things safe. But we turn it into, you know, survival means, you know, you have to keep these feelings away from me. You have to deny these things that I believe about myself. So you have to make sure that I don't, you know, grow too big because it means that I could fail, or all these fears and denial and avoidance that we have. You know, so with the assertiveness pattern, we do a bit the same thing with the survival instincts, where we, you know, the assertiveness can come as more defensiveness in moments where we really, you know, have that sense of being threatened. Also, the assertiveness is obviously very tied into our 4 pillars of self-esteem. How worthy we feel, how much we value what we are, who we are, what we have to say, what we have to offer, our ideas, our inspiration, our gifts, anything that we have to bring to the table. The more we value all of that, the more we acknowledge and embrace our worthiness. And the more we have that, the more it becomes quite a natural expression to be assertive, because assertive doesn't, when you're coming from that space of worthiness, is not about, you know, controlling anyone or imposing your opinions on anyone else. So it's not about defending something in you that you're afraid of or that you're trying to hide or that you're being defensive of. It's really about giving and offering. So assertiveness in this way is really more of a selfless thing. It's not about little you. It's really about you sharing of these things that you feel have no more value or no less value than what anyone else has to share, but they have just as much value and they have a place. And there is the place for uniqueness in all of that as well. The belonging obviously plays a lot into the assertiveness thing, because so much of us not daring to be assertive has to do with us not wanting to upset the egos around us, wanting to fit in and wanting to get that sense of belonging. But we have to remember that when we get that sense of belonging in a way that's about us not being in our truth and not speaking in our speaking our truth and holding the presence of who we really are, then we can't belong, because we're not even allowing ourselves to belong with ourselves. We're not even allowing ourselves to be in our life and to be present and to express who we are. And obviously the sense of belonging that we'll have with these people that we not being true with will be a lie. It won't be true. A big part of this assertiveness thing sometimes can also be relevant to particular situation. You know, there's some people that are managing to be more assertive in some situations and not others. For instance, they can be very assertive at work but not in a personal relationship, so vice versa. Or depending if it's with certain people, they can be assertive with some sort of people and not another kind of people. And that can really depend on how, first of all, what these other people think of them. You know, if these people likes you and approves of you, then you feel more worthy, and so you allow yourself to be more assertive. If you're with people who don't like you as much or don't approve of you as much, then maybe you feel less worthy and allowing yourself to be less assertive. And the problem with that, when you're doing that, is that you're constantly setting your sense of self and your sense of self-esteem from outside yourself and based on the opinion of other people. And that denotes 2 things. The first is that you obviously value other people's opinions and the opinions of egos around you more than your own knowing, your own truth. But it also shows that you have a disconnection from really knowing and feeling who you truly are. And so if you have that problem, you really need to work on reconnecting with that sense of who you truly are and learning to love that and to value that and nurture that and grow that and give it a place in your life. That's going to be like the most important place in your life, because that needs to be the primary relationship in your life with the God within, the spirit of which you are. That needs to be your most important relationship in your life, you know, with the God within and then the God within all. So there's some realignments there to be done. The opinions of other people. A person forms an opinion based on what they believe, their values, their issues, taboos, hang-ups, past experiences, judgments. And so, you know, the opinion that a person has of you, the way they perceive you will go through all of these lenses of all their judgments and beliefs and all of that. So it obviously will, you know, their opinions of you actually tells a lot more about them than you. It's you know, it's a lot more got to do with their own map of reality and issues and judgments than it has with who you are and who you really are. Anything major that I left out? I think that's, you know, the crux of it. Okay, so we're just going to do a little process to kind of get in touch with some of the crucial things that are going to be key elements to help you work and integrate with this issue of assertiveness. You know, there's a lot of things that this subject has stirred up with a lot of you, so it's going to keep working through the night, and on the integration days, as you pull all of this together, the work we've done with the whole realization, integration, and actualization process, the childhood issues, the self-esteem pillars, the teenage issues, the soul foundation, all of that comes into play. And we often find that with assertiveness as well, some of the childhood patterns and childhood issues play a big role in how assertive we are, because, you know, if we had really domineering parents, we tend to be less assertive. If we had experiences of getting into trouble when we spoke up when we were a kid, then we tend to not be assertive because we fear to get into trouble. So all of the works that we've done and with this assertiveness subject is going to tie in nicely to work on the integration days. Patty?
There's one thing I was just feeling then was where I haven't had the willingness, which is like an assertiveness, to be wrong.
Uh-huh.
You know, to learn, and that's kind of like another.
Yeah, the willingness to learn and to be wrong. That's a big part of it. Sometimes we're not assertive because we don't want to be wrong. So obviously that plays into that whole, what are people going to think, and they're going to think I'm stupid, or I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm full of shit, you know, I'm going to lose my reputation, my credibility, all of that. But to be okay with understanding that making mistakes and sometimes being wrong is part of the learning process, and it's, you know, it's a natural part of the learning process. You cannot really grow without being willing to sometimes be wrong and sometimes go in the wrong direction, and then, you know, learn what not to do and then do better. You know, you don't need to do a huge amount of that as part of the learning process, but there's bound to be some of that. So yeah, that's a really big one. And something else also that I just remembered, to the intellectual pride and spiritual pride. In order to cope with this deep sense of low self-esteem that we can feel, of these beliefs we have about being stupid or useless and all these things, we can then overcompensate by investing our sense of self-esteem in our intellect or in our spirituality. But these are just masks, and they're just coping mechanisms. And people who have intellectual pride often are really invested in knowing everything, being right, you know, getting it right every time, not making mistakes, getting it perfect, all this stuff. People, you know, who have spiritual pride often invest the sense of self-esteem to feeling that because of their spiritual involvement, it makes them better than everyone else often, and better than they would be without that. And to some degree, it's true that, you know, engaging on the path of spirituality in growth usually tends to make you better than you would be if you didn't, but it's not in a way that you judge who you were before. You know, it makes you better simply because it helps you actualize more of the potential that was already there before you were in traveling the spiritual path, and knowing that the journey that you had before you traveled the spiritual path has been part of your path. It's been part of the whole journey. It's not like two different things. It's one journey, and all of it contributed to bring you where you are now, the human journey where you may or may not have been involved in spirituality as well as the spiritual journey. There's no separation. It all has contributed to bringing you where you are now. And yeah, the spiritual pride can often be used as a way to fulfill needs within, to heal, to save, to do, to fix people, all of that. And that's obviously not healthy. And that's, people feel they're being assertive by preaching to everyone and pushing things onto them because they feel they know better or because they want to save everyone. That's just spiritual pride. And a lot of us, when we don't want to be assertive or we're scared of being assertive, we do it because we want to avoid the experience of being humiliated. And that's related with rejection, which I was talking about before. But the experience of being humiliated is actually very useful, because when you are humiliated, basically the coping mechanisms and barriers of your spiritual pride or intellectual pride or whatever coping mechanism you have to avoid these feelings of low self-esteem are being ripped away from you for that moment, as you are being ridiculed or proven wrong or something, and you dropped right into all the feelings that are causing you to have issues with assertiveness, to be under-assertive or to be overly assertive, or you kind of like, being rah, rah, rah as a way to hide all these things that you really feel underneath the surface, to overcompensate. So the experience of humiliation is not something that you should hide away from and run away from. It's actually something that you need to use for your healing, to turn it into a gift and a blessing. So yeah, so let's make sure we're aligned and centered. Ah yes, maybe on. And let's be just really present in ourselves. We're not going to expand in any major way through space and time like we have done on some of the other processes. We're just going to really be with the realness of being us as we are right now, as much as we can. Connected up, connected down, aligned and centered. And let's just really open ourselves inside of ourselves. It's like, let's go have a little private time with ourselves, with that deepest part of ourselves that perhaps we feel self-conscious about, that thing we want to hide from ourselves and from the world, those feelings we want to avoid and deny, these things that we just like have so many coping mechanisms inside, these things that cause us to not be assertive or be overly assertive. What is it in there that's vulnerable, that you're self-conscious about, that you want to hide, that you don't want people to see, and that you'd rather forget about? You'll maybe find a feeling or a belief or a whole concept of self. I'm that stupid nerd who, can never amount to anything. Or I'm the fragile, little, helpless thing that can't do anything for herself. Or I'm evil and there's something wrong with me. All sorts of self-concepts and deeper issues about yourself that you want to hide, and that's why you don't like to be seen. That's why you don't like to assert yourself, your knowing, your feelings. So just hold space for that. Be okay to see it. Be okay to hold a healing space for it, and be okay to accept it, to acknowledge it, and to own it. Your deepest little secret about how you feel about yourself. Something that maybe started when you were a kid, or maybe it started before that. But it's there. And you know what? It's just a concept of self. It's not really the self. But it's got to be felt, and it's got to be acknowledged, and it's got to be accepted. And it's got to be loved and appreciated. Because that is still part of your energy and part of your journey and part of your experience. And you need to make peace with it. Not to get rid of it, but just because you choose to love yourself. And you choose to value yourself. And even that little part of you that you're hiding and judging and that feels not very nice, you're choosing to accept it, to love it, to hold space for it, to hold it, to own it, to appreciate it. Because it's been part of your journey. It's been part of what's brought you here. And when you feel okay with it, when you feel that you could actually be okay to show that to someone, and you're not ashamed of it so much that you want to hide it, that however messed up it is and however stupid it seems to be, you're okay with seeing it yourself, and you're okay with showing it. And you can show it right now, just let it be there. Let it be seen. Let you be seen at your deepest core, at your deepest level. And helping that part of you be reassured and understand that you don't need to fight to be safe anymore. You don't need to feel threatened anymore. There is nothing wrong with you. And you are safe because you're there for yourself. And you know that all these feelings, they're just feelings and not who you really are. My little secret is out. It's not a secret anymore. It's not even the truth. It's just impacts and beliefs and feelings. And I love this self-conscious part of me. I accept it, I appreciate it, I redeem it. I allow this part of me to realize that there's never been anything wrong with me. And it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks, because what other people think has got nothing to do with me. I know that I am a being of love. And if they can't see it, then that's because they're not seeing clearly. As long as I choose to behave in, of, and full love and express the truth within my heart, and I am living my truth and speaking my truth and breathing my truth. And if people disagree, it's just because they're not about love, and I am about love. So why would I care what they think? I value and prioritize love. If they don't like it, then I don't value their opinions. I walk the talk of it. It's not just empty words, I gotta walk the talk of it. And I can reconnect with that within myself. The knowing that I had once, before I started believing other people's opinions, that I am about love, that I value love, that love is my priority, that I love love. And I give myself permission to be that again. I reconnect with that. And knowing that I'm worthy of that, and I'm worthy as that. To be true to myself, to stand strong in my truth, to speak up my truth when it is wise to be so, to do so, and to shut up when it is wise to be so, because I don't need anything. I don't need to speak to feel better about myself, because I am true to myself. I simply am who I am. I don't need anything. I just express love. I just do my best. And I have to know that the people in my life that can't accept it, well, they don't have to, but I'm not going to shut down for them. If they choose to be about fear and ego, then I just maybe let them go, or maybe just ignore their opinions. It doesn't matter to me. I value myself, I value love, I value my truth, and I walk the talk of that. And all these things that I've been so scared of, that I've considered to be threats to my safety, to my sanity, to my well-being, that are not threats, that is just about wounds and hurts within myself, I'm not scared of that anymore. Because I can heal myself, and I am healing myself. And I am here for myself. I am about love. I am love. I choose love. I walk the talk of love. I express love. I hold the space of love. I am worthy of love. I belong with love. I choose love in my self-determination. And my expression of love is unique, absolutely unique, and I allow that to be. And I know I'm not perfect, and I know I'm going to make mistakes on the way, and I accept that, because that's part of the journey. I don't have anything to prove, I don't have anything to defend. All I have to do is be me, stay in connection with me. If people don't get it, then maybe they're not the kind of people I want to have as friends, to be close to. I don't judge them, I don't attack them, just let them make their choices, and I make my choices. It's not everyone's cup of tea, and not everyone's choices are your cup of tea. Sometimes you go your separate ways, sometimes you live side by side and just accept each other and your differences. You let go of your investment in relationships and things in your life that are not in harmony with who you really are. You cannot keep betraying and hiding who you really are, being ashamed of who you really are, in order to fulfill egoic needs, fear-based needs, not wanting to be alone, not wanting to be rejected, not wanting to be made fun of. All that stuff, it's all about fear. You're about love. The ultimate, most painful rejection is rejection of yourself. When is enough going to be enough? When have you had enough? Have you yet? When you really realize where your patterns are running about putting yourself into boxes to get the approval of others, to please, to meet expectations that are not in harmony with your truth, you're setting yourself free. All the things that you think make you feel good, that's about ego and fear. Believe me, it's exhausting. It doesn't feel good. And you know that. And when you drop them, that feels right. That's really freedom. That's owning up your space. That's breathing for the first time. So you got to keep letting go of these false identities, of these false concepts of self that are deep within, that you've been hiding and covering. this is not the truth, it's just feelings. It's not the deepest truth of who I am. It's just feelings. It's a faulty foundation, faulty conclusions. You got to really remember, other people's opinions are not your business. If they don't value what you value, if they don't accept you when you're expressing your truth in love and wisdom, then why would you value what they think? And you have to remember, a lot of things that you have considered to be threats, things to be scared of, wake up. My God, there is nothing to be scared of. Be rational about it, and then let go of the fears, let go of the past experiences of wounding around it, and just be there for yourself. Hold a space for yourself. Help yourself remember that you are safe. Retrain yourself to be more courageous, to own up your space so that you don't have to feel threatened or trapped. Just be the truth in, of, and full love. I am. So keep working with that. Remembering who you are, letting go of the false core self-concepts that you've thought you had to hide for so long, and letting go of the strategies around keeping safe, staying out of trouble, avoiding pain, all this stuff that's just animal, creature stuff. You're better than that. This is all, there's nothing wrong with those instincts, but you cannot be ruled by them. You're the boss. I am in charge, and I am about love. Therefore, I'm letting all this go, and I'm living in love, holding my space, asserting the love of which I am, in humility and wisdom. It's not about me needing anything or being invested in anything. It's just about simply being who I am. Here now and in all moments. I'm sure we'll all get a lot of practice when we go out into the world and relate with the people in our family and work. Christmas is coming soon. It's always a great opportunity to practice. For those of you who meet family at work, remember what you choose. Remember who you are. Remember to catch these things that trigger, that are about the old. And remember, it's about asserting your love in order to give of that love. It's not about forcing, it's not about taking, it's not about avoiding or pushing. It's about giving selflessly because it feels right, because it's wisdom in that moment. Commit to that, commit to practicing that, and commit to keep clearing around that. This is going to be an ongoing journey. It's all tied up in the foundations, it's all tied up in the childhood stuff and the teenage stuff and the soul stuff. It can bring up issues around a power aspect, being able to stand strong in ourselves. And obviously it's all anchored in the foundations.